Answer the question from the last one first of all. So notice we have, this is the first row, this is the second row, this is the third row. So there are 3 rows, and then as you can see, we have here only a single column. So in other words, we would say that it's a 3 by 1 matrix. Let's move on. Now we have to decide for ourselves, what is it to say two matrices are equal? So matrices is the plural of matrix, and as a bit of a history aside, matrix comes from the Latin word for mother, believe it or not. Well, for womb specifically, like this. What does it mean to say two matrices are equal? Well, when you say 1, then you have to have a 1 on the right side, right? Think about it. If you have 2 plus 1, then you have to have a 2 plus 1 on that side, right? If you say 3, then you have to have, for example, 3 on the right side. So if you have a matrix that just says 1 here, right, and another 1 by 1 matrix that says x, then the only way they can be equal is if x equals 1, correct? So let me stress, this is a 1, say, by 1, and this is also a 1 by 1. 1 row, 1 column. So x has to be equal to 1 for these two matrices to be equal. Then you extend it. So imagine that this is, for example, 2, 4, and you have some other matrix. So I should stress again that this is a 1 by 2, and then here imagine you have x and y. And again, this is noticed a 1 by 2 matrix. So they can be equal only if x equals 2, right? And then y equals 4. In other words, the entries, let's say it this way, entries in corresponding positions have to match like that. That's the basic definition of matrix equality. It's very reasonable if you think about it. So let's move on. Imagine now we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's again, let me stress, it's a 2 by 2 matrix, 2 rows, 2 columns. And then imagine here you have the following: x, 2y, z, and then for example 3p. So here's a question then. Let's say we want to make sure that these two are equal. That means x must be equal to 1. Why? Because look at it, right? This is in this position, this is in this position. First row, first column. That means that the 2 here has to be equal to the 2y because they're in the same position between the two matrices. In other words, we can write down based on that an equation that states 2y equals 2, which means that the following is true. 2y divided by 2 equals 2 divided by 2, like this, right? So then you have y equals positive 1. It has to be the value of y. All right, then you compare the next one. Let me do this one in green, right? So for example, since this is 3 and this is z, then that's easy. Let me just know that z is equal to 3. The values have to match in corresponding positions. All right, let's do the last one now. So let me do this one in blue. Imagine this is 4, right, and then 3p. Those two are in the same position between the matrices. So you can say 3p has to be equal to 4, which means you're going to have 3p divided by 3 equals 4 divided by 3 divided by 3, which means p equals 4/3. And now we know the values of all of our variables. X is 1, y is 1, z is 3, and p is 4/3. In other words, two matrices are equal. They have to have the same corresponding entries. That means entries in the same position. Let's talk about the subscripts here. So when you have a matrix like this, you can say this is A sub 1, 1. Why? Let me put this as an aside. What you have is A sub row. We call this the index, comma, and then you have after that the column index like this. Okay? Index like that. So this means first row, first column. If you tab over, then you have A sub 1, comma 2. That means first row, second column. Punch down. Then you have A sub 2. That means second row. 1 means first column, you see? And then you have A sub, for example, second row, second column. So A sub 2, 2. So those are the entry labels in general in terms of the addresses. This thing here, the 1, 1, that means separate this out. First row, and then, for example, first column like that, okay? So your assignment is the following. Make a 3 by 3 matrix with subscripts. So take what we have for a 2 by 2 and just extend the subscript. So in other words, remember, you need to account for the fact that we have 3 columns like this and 3 rows. So you have to keep track of all the subscripts for that reason. I'll answer in the next video. I'll see you there.